Hey guys, welcome back to the podcast.
Hey,
It's been a while.
it has.
It might be a while again before we see you. Who knows?
Drop a comment. Do you like our podcast? We need,
Yeah, we need some verbal encouragement
yeah,
to keep it going.
and not you,
You know?
mom. Like, somebody,
Not Bridget's mom. We know you love the podcast.
yeah.
And Kevin, I know that you love the podcast.
Yeah.
With Darby.
My mom gets
mentions
mad
it every time,
when I cuss.
which is a lot. We curse a lot on here.
It's not professional.
I've been trying to
Yeah,
cut down
I know.
on
yeah.
my cursing,
Yeah.
but sometimes they're just nothing fits quite as well
Yeah,
as a curse word.
exactly. So sorry, mom. I'll go to church.
Today we were thinking of talking about expectations. I think that's a way to
Expectations,
sum it up.
Yeah.
What are your expectations for your dog? What is realistic? What is not realistic? How to, from the dog trainer side of things, how to speak to clients in a way that is like encouraging, but also maybe we need to temper some expectations a little bit.
Yes. Yeah.
Or set them up for a place mentally where they like know where we're headed, the road that it's going to take to get there. So that way there's no like bumps along the way.
Yeah. No
with them.
surprises. Like as
Keep
Jeff,
the vibes good.
Jeff Gelman says, you can't, they're not hiring you to be a yes man. They're
Exactly.
not hiring you to be like, yeah, I can get your dog this X, Y, and Z. There are some dogs that things aren't possible with.
Yeah.
We have to set our expectations around that.
And there are some things that are definitely possible. And sometimes I have to convince
I
clients
know.
of
Yeah.
that.
It's like a fine line. Like,
They're like, I don't know. Like I have some clients currently who it's the cutest thing. It was like their second lesson. Things are going pretty well. Their dog is pretty reactive, has attacked a couple dogs in the past over things. And this is not like a dog. Like I don't have big concerns about this dog. Right. And I think sometimes my lackadaisical way I go about things is like concerning to people that are like really traumatized by how their dog has behaved in the past, which I don't minimize by any means, but I try to like use my vibe to like give them a temperature gauge on like, it's fine. It's not going to be that crazy.
Yeah.
But they asked me in like a roundabout way, she goes, so I was curious, do you have like a standard, like this is what you do at every lesson for every dog, or like, how do you like, track things? And I was like, well, I usually, I said, yeah, I have like a framework of like how I expect I want things to go, but I change it like for the individual dog I'm working with based on what we're doing or what the issues are. I said, and I even will change it on the spot. If you show up to a lesson and I have something in my head that I want to do and you mention something and that's more pertinent, then we'll do that instead, whatever. And she goes, so what I'm getting at is, when are you going to socialize him? Because we need at least 2 weeks to mentally prepare.
yeah.
And I was like, well,
Yeah.
I was like, well, I said, if that's the case, maybe I shouldn't tell you. And she goes, and I was like, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. I was like, but probably actually, ironically, in 2 weeks, in 2 sessions, we probably will do that. And so I think that was just like a funny instance where I think they're really building up this big, like, oh no, what's going to happen? And I want them to be able to like process it and relax a little bit. And I also preface everything where I'm like, we're doing this the safest way possible. So even if things go awry, no one's getting hurt. Nothing catastrophic is going to happen. It's all going to be fine.
Trust the process. I had a client, little Miss Lola, the beagle that just went home, hasn't interacted with her sister since they've had Lola.
Yeah.
Because they were too terrified. So I went over there. We did a social, and the lady was like, oh my God, I'm freaking out. And she was like, are you sure this is okay? And the dogs like sat on the porch and sunbathed together and like sniffed each other. And every time they sniffed each other, she's very sweet, but she was like, my heart. And I was like, it's okay. Like everything's going great. Like, and everything did go great. But I can understand from that perspective of not being in this career, not seeing all the success, that you could doubt it at first.
Oh, for sure.
And then you have to kind of do it to see that it can be successful.
Yeah. And I think one of the biggest things that a lot of clients are unconvinced that their dog will ever be capable of is off leash.
Yeah.
And like, I don't try super hard to convince people of that at the beginning because I know once we get to where we'd be doing that anyways, your whole perspective is going to have shifted, and what originally terrified you and you doubted about your dog is going to be completely different, and it's not even going to be a problem, because I know that going into it, like, they couldn't even fathom like taking the leash off of their like reactive beagle. You know what I mean? Or things like that. In my head, I'm like, oh, this is so simple. Like, this is no big deal. And so I usually, like, at my first lesson with people, there's a number of questions that I'll ask to kind of like get everybody on the same page, gauge the vibe. And my number one that I ask, especially people with behavioral issues or people with really young puppies, is everything you think you know about your dog pushed aside. What would your ideal life with them look like?
Yeah.
Whether you think they could do it or not, what would your ideal life with them look like? And you get to really know, like, truly deep down what their goals are, because they're not filtering what they think is possible.
Yeah.
Right? So like, maybe somebody really wants to do off leash, but they have a husky. So in their head, they're like, I'm going to look so stupid if I say I want to do off leash to this dog trainer who probably knows that huskies can't be off leash. You know what I mean? And stuff
Huskies
like that.
Can't be off leash.
Yeah. Right. So I've found that asking that question really like opens the floor, gives them the ability to unfiltered tell you exactly what they want. And then that also gives me insight into, okay, is that realistic with the dog that they have? And then I can kind of cater our conversation throughout the sessions to highlight areas where maybe those goals are going to be workable and maybe somewhere they'll have to compromise a little bit.
Yeah. Like safety of humans, like something that we can't really necessarily promise or compromise on is that your dog is going to be happy to meet strangers. Like I just had a dog, and she got this dog from a breeder, and she was like, I got it from a breeder because I really want it to say hi to people in public. And the dog hates that. Like, the dog has bitten people that come up to it. And he did a board and train. And then I was expectation setting, and I was like, I wouldn't have strangers come up. And she was like, I wasted my money on this dog because he's not stable enough to say it. And I was like, no, he just doesn't like it.
Yeah.
And that's him as a personality. Like, sure, we could do drills and like nail the dog for snapping, but is that ethical? Is that fair?
Exactly.
And if your dog you could just say, no, he's in training. I don't want you to pet him.
You can't get a dog as a source of entertainment.
No.
Like, and that's your first mistake.
Absolutely none of my dogs I would ever allow a stranger to come up, even Sunday, who's the friendliest dog in the world.
Yeah.
I would never allow you to come and pet my dog if I don't know you. That's weird.
It is weird.
It's like,
how is it not weird, guys? It's weird.
Yeah.
Like, the more that I go out in the world and I see people, like, I took Icarus to Home Depot the other day, and this was a business trip. I needed things. This was not like a social fun outing. It never is, but you know what I mean. We weren't there to mess around. So I'm like on a mission, getting all the things I need. She's obviously being a sweet little baby angel, as she always is. And we're at the checkout. She's laying down like a perfect little puppy, right? And, you know, I'm feeding her treats periodically. She's doing great. Everyone's walking by. It's great. And then this random person comes up with a bag of treats out of nowhere. There was no dog. I don't know where they got it. Where did it come from? Do they just carry a bag of treats with them places? I don't know. And she goes, can I give her a treat? And I said, no.
Yeah.
Absolutely not. Like, what a weird thing to do.
Like, you don't know what's in that tree. Like,
yeah.
We have to stop trusting people.
Like, this is so weird. I would not allow my child to take a random lollipop from a stranger. I would not allow a random person to give my dog a treat. That's very odd.
Yeah. And people, like, that's something that they cannot get past, is that they want their dog to be like the center of attention. They want their dog to say hi to everybody. It just it does more harm than it does good. Even if your dog is super friendly, you're literally conditioning your dog that a stranger can turn on and off like their focus on you.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Very odd. Don't do that.
Yeah.
It's weird behavior.
It is. Like, imagine, like, I know children and dogs are completely different, but imagine you had a baby. You go into a store and 3 people ask you if they can touch your baby.
But what's weird is people do that.
Yeah.
That's what's so weird, is people will do that. I remember my mom told me, even like when I was little, She's like, we'd be in stores and like random old ladies or like even just men would like come up and like get right down and like try to touch you. She's like, the amount of people that I had to smack their hands away from my child, which probably back then it was way worse.
Yeah. It's
I
weird.
feel like, in the 90s, it was, who knows what was going on in the 90s. It was a crazy time.
Yeah.
So back to the Home Depot thing and the store thing. I saw a video the other day of a woman who was saying that her dog makes her life so miserable because it's reactive, that she's never getting another dog ever again. Mm-hmm. And she wasn't saying it as in like a I hate my dog situation. She was just saying that like, I never really knew reactive dogs existed and were a thing. And it's probably because they're always kept in their houses and in their yards because they can't go anywhere. And knowing that this is a risk that could happen, like I don't want to ever risk it again by getting another dog. And in my head, I'm like, but this is definitely something that could be fixed.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about this, how the simple fact of being able to take your dog outside of your home and out of their yard for even just a basic walk around the neighborhood is 100% achievable for every single dog.
Yes. Yeah.
There is not a dog who cannot do that.
Yeah.
I would put $1 million on that statement.
We could make it happen. Like, and the owners, if they understood the process, could make it happen too. Mm-hmm. Even if you have to put a muzzle on your dog and that's how you feel safe, you can do it.
You can do it.
Yeah.
There's never a dog that just like will never be like stop being reactive.
And there's no amount of positive reinforcement that's going to like alone change reactivity.
Yeah.
And like make the dog just suddenly not reactive anymore because you throw treats on the ground. It's like there's some people that are so against balance training tools, and really like you could have a whole different life if you just opened your mind.
Your whole world would change, and you'd probably want another dog one day.
Yes, because dogs are wondrul and you deserve to enjoy them. And that's why I have 7 of them.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I have 3. But that's kind of goes back to the expectation thing of like her expectations are so low.
yeah.
She's like, oh, this is hopeless. That nothing can be done. Nothing can be fixed. And I think the internet really does that to you sometimes. Like
you can't go outside. Like it's your fault. Like the dog's like this. But this is just your life. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
You can't live in an apartment.
You're just
can't go
at
on a
the
walk.
mercy of your dog.
Yeah.
And like really bad dog trainers do that too. Like the amount of people I've worked with that have been told by trainers, your dog will never be able to do this or this or this or this. And it's like, so simple to fix.
Yeah.
And like, wow, suddenly they can do this.
Yes. Like Zeno, who we just had as a board and train, like I posted a video of him playing with another dog and she was like, oh my God, my last trainer told me he would never be able to be around dogs or people ever in his whole life. And he was literally like a loud shepherd that was a little bit dominant and needed some work, but he was fine.
If I tell someone your dog will never be able to be around other people or other dogs ever again, it will then be followed by saying you should euthanize it.
Yeah.
There's no other, like that's the extreme we're talking about. Like if I say that to you, then that means I'm telling you probably need to euthanize your dog.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that to you and then sending you on your way out
like,
into the world and being
figure it
like,
out.
that's not my problem anymore.
If you have a loaded gun, you have a loaded gun.
If a trainer, like it's insane. Like if somebody is saying that to you, and there are plenty of trainers that will then tell you to euthanize their dog and they're wrong. You should not. But if a trainer is saying that and not even following it up with, and your dog should probably not be alive, instant red flag. They're saying this dog is so dangerous, but then they don't have the balls to tell you that, like, and that probably means you need to put them down.
Or like they don't have the skill level, so they will just recommend like you don't do something.
Yeah.
Another example is Benny, who's just here, went through like a Karen Pryor Academy trainer,
Karen.
one of those. And she was like, at some point she told me that I needed better management and I couldn't do this, that. I couldn't play with Benny. I couldn't walk Benny because he just gets too excited. And she was like, it's a complete change now. Like I can take Benny on walks. I can do so much with Benny. And she was so happy. And because she had an open mind, it wasn't just like this Karen Pryor trainer,
Yeah.
really got in my head. She was like, is there more out there for me?
See? She knew. She could sense it.
Yeah,
she said, this is
wonderful.
bullshit.
This is bullshit. Like, always question things too. Like, if a trainer's like, your dog can never do this, that, or that, like, be like, but why?
Yeah, but why?
What's your reasoning?
Is it because you just don't know how to fix the problem? Yeah. No, like, if I tell you something and you ask me why, or you ask me to explain it, I should be able to explain it to you.
Yeah. I'm not going to be like, oh, I don't know.
Yeah, I'd be like, this just, I don't know.
It's just how I feel.
It's just what I've seen people do. This just feels like the right, no. I should be able to explain to you exactly why I'm doing it, why I'm telling you to do it, why it's going to work, what it's going to look like, all that kind of stuff. Like, even going back to like expectation setting and stuff, and being as proactive with it as you can. When I send people with their e-collars, to correct for scenario specific things that we can't necessarily recreate at the facility. So for instance, the two big ones that I can think of are usually window reactivity or chasing cats. Those are like the biggest ones I see that need to be corrected, and it's not like something we can do here at the facility.
People are always like, do you have cats that you can try? I was like, no.
I don't think that's be ethical to have a cat on hand to use as bait.
Like, get the cat out of the closet. It's time to see.
It's time. That'd be crazy. And so what I usually do with people is I will work the dog with an e-collar to get like a baseline of like what their sensitivity is like. And then I will tell them around the number range that I want them to use to correct the dog for these things at home. And I go through this whole scenario based thing with them. I say, okay, one of three things is going to happen, and this is how I want you to respond depending on which one happens. First one is going to be that you correct them and they have a huge response. They might vocalize. They stop what they're doing. And if that's the case, amazing. It did exactly what we wanted it to do. We made that scenario suck for them. They're going to be far less likely to do it again in the future.
Yeah, a consequence added to a behavior.
And so then you just ignore everything and you just move on. They might run to you and be like, mommy, mommy, but you just ignore them and just move on with your day. And leave the level where it's at because it was effective. It stopped the behavior. The second scenario, and again, guys, I'm talking about using the e-collar to stop very high arousal behaviors. We need a level that's going to like kick them in the pants a little bit. Second scenario would be that the dog acts like they felt nothing. Nothing happened. It doesn't stop the behavior. They persist through it. And I tell them, if that happens, you need to go up 20 numbers, 20, and correct them again. And usually everyone's like, 20, that's crazy. And I'm like, listen, we want what works. Okay. I don't want to fiddle around with go up 3 to 5 numbers and try again. And if that doesn't work, 3 to 5 numbers, because what's going to happen is that you're basically numbing them out to e-collar pressure. And they're in such a high arousal state that if you, for instance, start at 30 and they ignore you and you go to 35 and they go, oh, I felt something, but I'm still going to do what I'm doing. And then you go to 40. Oh, I felt a little more. And now you're just pissing them off.
Yeah.
You're poking the bear. You're agitating them. But if you went from 30 to 50, they're not going to ignore that.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's the second scenario I lay out for them. I go, and the third scenario is that they get corrected. It is enough to stop it momentarily. Like they're like, oh, that was kind of weird.
Yeah.
Let me try again.
Yeah.
I'm like, and in that setting, just correct them again. If it stops the behavior momentarily, but then they try it one more time, just tell them no and correct them again at the same level. And usually then they'll be like, this wasn't a fluke. I should probably stop. Yeah. And then you're good to go. And I find that by laying out all 3 potential scenarios, no one's surprised. No one calls me and goes, oh, my dog looked so traumatized, because they're expecting one of those 3 pictures. And then when they see it, they're like, oh, she told me this was going to happen. I know exactly what to do and how to move forward with this. And it works very well, very smoothly to set people up with exactly what they're going to see.
And like having people understand, like, you don't have to feel bad. for correcting your dog for performing a behavior that has made your life miserable for the last however long you've owned them. And then you're finally getting on it. And then people are like, I felt so terrible. I'm like, I don't.
Yeah, I don't feel bad. I feel bad for your cats.
Yeah. I feel bad for your neighbors. I feel bad for the people that like don't want to come up to your house. The mailman.
Yes, exactly. It's scary when you walk by houses and dogs are like completely out of control,
like,
especially when they
okay.
like let them stand and slam on their storm doors.
know,
I'm
yeah.
like, it takes 2 seconds to pop that
Yeah.
door open if the dog wanted to hard
Yeah.
enough. Like,
that was my whole childhood. Is my dogs ran away all the time, and that was we were just the family that like they'd call and be like, "Your dog's here," and the same thing, the screen door. Like my mom never got it fixed, and the dogs would just be like, and they'd be gone.
be like, this stupid door, get out of my way.
And like back then, people weren't as like butthurt about dogs running up to you, but in today's world, like if that happened to be in my neighborhood, like my pet corrector's on me.
Oh yeah,
My pepper spray's on me. Like I'm
taking
a
off the
chance.
crock,
Yeah.
coming at you. No, actually, so this is another version of expectation setting that now I'm thinking of. We had new neighbors move in. Bless them. And they have a dog. They also have ferrets that I saw the other day, which don't let my dog see those. But they have a dog, and they routinely let their young children bring this dog outside. And this thing is whipping them all over the place. Zero control. And good for them. The dog seems very nice. My dogs are not that nice at times. And I regularly have them out in my front yard where there's no fencing or anything like that. And I've seen on a couple of occasions this dog just like whip them into my front yard.
Yeah.
And they just like can't stop it. And so I'm like, okay, at some point I'm going to have a conversation with these people of like, hey, just so everybody stay safe. That cannot be happening. Because if my dogs are out and your dog sees them and says, hey, friends, and starts dragging your 8-year-old into my yard, that's not going to end well for anybody at all. And so we had a conversation about expectation setting. And they were very nice. They were like, we really appreciate you talking to us about it. You know, we'll be very aware, blah, 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 blah. And so don't be afraid of like, if you live somewhere and because here's the thing, it's your yard. You don't have to look at that situation and be like, oh no, what am I going to do? Now my dog's this, that. It's like, just talk to people.
Yeah.
Communicate. I feel like we've lost the ability to communicate these days.
And even
Everyone
if it's
is so scared of
uncomfortable.
like face-to-face conversation.
Yeah.
And it's like now they know. And so they'll be able to put things in place. And I'll obviously still like be doing my due diligence. I'm not just going to let my dogs go ballistic if something were to happen. That's where training is important because knowing that my dogs are very territorial and they have personalities that are a little bit more defensive, I also need to make sure that I am doing my due diligence, that if shit hits the fan, I still need to be able to control my dogs.
Yeah.
Right? If a child comes wandering into my yard, and yes, he shouldn't be there. Yes, maybe the dog is like, oh, this is my yard and it's doing what a dog would do. That doesn't make it okay.
Yeah.
Especially if you are there.
Yeah. And the law is not on your side.
No, the law is not on your side with that. Maybe if you had a fence and a child like climbed your fence and came into your yard, you might have a little bit more of a leg to stand on. But if you have no physical fencing and you have a mean dog, you don't get to just leave your dog outside.
Hope for the best.
No, that is not how these things work.
You just leave your Roddy outside. You're like, God bless.
Exactly. My intention with my conversation with the neighbors was just to mitigate as much risk on both sides as possible. I will do everything that I will do to make sure that like your children and this dog and everybody else stays safe. But also, please be aware that I don't want you in my yard. And that's going to make everybody's life easier.
Yes. Yeah. I had a very similar situation, but right before I went to Greece last year, these 2 pit bulls appeared on the other side of my backyard neighbors. And that's
they emerge from like the
yeah.
depths of hell.
Yes, and that's the only place that we don't have a 6-foot fencing. We have a 4-foot chain link because the fencing company like wouldn't do it there. And I just hear these dogs like playing with a toy, and they're like shaking this little stuffed animal and like being absolutely insane. Fence fighting with my dog. They're almost coming up and clearing the chain link fence. And of course, I was like, I had to cancel my trip. Like, I'm not going on the trip and having the pet sitter like be responsible for this.
Yeah, that's fair.
So like we went over to them and we found out they were just visitors. And the next day we built our own fence because even if I have a conversation with people, like, yes, they can understand, but like they forget or they're like, it's going to be fine. And they don't know their own dogs. So we built our own fence. And since then I've never seen those dogs again, but I was going to take action.
Oh yeah.
Like, not leave that to a pet sitter.
And like, even like, so back to my scenario with my dogs in my front yard, one thing that they know is if for any of my dog to be off leash in my front yard, they understand when I tell them to go to the porch, that's where they go. Right. So, and I use that all the time because if a neighbor kid kicks a ball and it comes into my yard, immediately I tell my dogs to go to the porch. They go up there, they sit on the porch. Kid comes and gets the ball. Everyone's on their merry way. Maybe the mailman shows up while I'm outside. I put them up there. I can talk to him, get what I need to, whatever. And so again, that's like another form of maybe in the expectations conversation, clear expectations for my dogs on like how they're to behave when people are entering our property that I am aware of. That's not your job. You don't take that into your own hands of like how we deal with that. And I've taught you the expectations for you is that when I tell you to go up there and not care about it, you're not allowed to care about it. And so on top of, obviously communicating clearly with other people, you need to be able to communicate very clearly your expectations with your dogs then too.
Yes. Like, because your mail service people don't deserve to like be the ones that get hurt. Like, I just saw a video of a man delivering an Amazon package and a Cane Corso like chased him through the yard and came out through the gate and knocked him on his back. And I would sue you if that happened
100%.
to me. Like, you cannot have a dog that big out and just be like, I'm not going to watch them. Like, even my little dogs in my completely fenced in yard, I never leave them unsupervised ever.
Never. My dogs are not outside unsupervised, even in the fenced areas. Like, I don't risk it because even though I have a fence, like I caught a kid. One time I was out in my yard. This was a couple years ago. And this kid is very lucky I was out there and with my dogs because he started climbing my fence to like cut through all of the backyards or whatever. And he starts like coming over the fence and Lumos darted right over there where he was. And I recalled him back to me. And the kid's like frozen on top of the fence, like freaked out. And I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
And he was like, I was just trying to cut through. And I was like, climbing into people's fenced backyards is so stupid. I was like, you are going to get attacked by a dog. I said, get off of my fence. Go to the sidewalk. Go to the sidewalk and walk the normal way like everybody else would. He's like, oh yeah, you're right. I'm so sorry. I'm like, I hope you're traumatized, but you're safe. So thank the heavens and get out of here, please. But those are the moments where it's like you can't anticipate other people's behavior and what they're going to do.
I was definitely that kid that did hood rat shit with my friends. And we would climb in people's backyards like that. And I remember like specifically like avoiding all these dogs and then being like, where was my mom?
Yep. Yeah. I was driving one time, so I couldn't do anything, but it was crazy. There was a junkyard, like scrap yard on like an intersection. And so I was turning right on the intersection. So as I come up to the intersection, I see like 3 teenagers climbing the fence to this scrapyard to get in. And then I make my right turn, and on the halfway down the fence on the other side was a Belgian Malinois that's like loose in the scrapyard as likely their guard dog for this exact reason. And I was just driving and I was like, oh no, this is not. And then as I got like a little further, all of a sudden I hear screaming and a dog barking and just so much chaos. And I'm like, those kids just shit their pants. They just got the scare of their life.
Yes. And if you're going to somebody's property and their dog is defending their property, like that's one thing.
Yes.
But if you're in your neighborhood and a dog is being aggressive or like downright the owners have no control.
Or they're charging off of their property at you.
Like,
totally different.
Please call the police. Please make a report. And people are like, well, I don't want to do that. Like,
I don't want to be the reason a
I don't wanna
dog
be a
gets in
narc.
trouble.
Yeah.
Be a narc.
Yeah.
These people need to be held accountable. That's the only way they're going to learn.
Yeah. And like if you don't report it and let's say a child gets hurt or an elderly person with their dog gets hurt, like that's on you.
Yeah.
And you have to live with that knowledge.
You got to take some personal responsibility here in those situations to prevent it from happening to somebody else
I will be
again.
calling the animal control, like if I see that kind of behavior, and I don't feel bad about it at all.
No, not at all. I just saw a video today actually of a guy that was jogging and he had like one of those like sticks with the camera, a selfie stick with the camera, and he was jogging by this house and this German Shepherd charges out and attacks the camera. Thankfully the camera was there because that's what the dog focused on. And then the owner was there and like yelled, and the dog came back and he was like, sorry about that, and walked away. And the guy just kept running, which he was probably in shock, whatever. I would have been like, sorry about that.
Yeah.
Come again. The police will be here any minute because that was insane.
Yeah,
like that is not something you just like move on from.
Yeah. And it's not safe for like the people in your neighborhood. It's like if it happens to you, it's going to happen to somebody else that might be more vulnerable than you. So like do your due diligence as like a citizen of your community. And if a dog is fucking buck wild, do something about it.
I have a client that runs, and she had like multiple times has encountered a German Shepherd in her neighborhood that's like very aggressive towards when she's running, and it's come up and like charged at her and stuff like that, and she won't call the freaking cops. And if you're listening to this, do that because this is crazy. It's happened to you multiple times. And also, will German Shepherd people get their shit together? It's always the freaking German Shepherds that are chasing like runners and skateboards and like all of that nonsense because of the prey drive. Guys, it's embarrassing.
Yeah.
It's embarrassing.
It is.
I have a German Shepherd. I can say it's embarrassing and you can't get mad at me.
Yeah.
Okay? Sometimes the worst part of owning a German Shepherd is saying you own a German Shepherd.
Yeah.
So I need us to pull it together.
Yes. And German Shepherds like can make such a freaking 180 in training. Like
They're so easy to train.
they are. And people like I had a client be like, what dog is like so hard to train? And she was like, it's German Shepherds, isn't it? I'm like, they're piece of cake. Piece of cake.
They're so easy to train. I had a client start recently with a Belgian Malinois that she literally found on the street. Like the definition of rescuing a dog, this woman. She like went out and trapped it herself, okay,
nice.
and got this dog. And she has taken it in. It is her dog. There was no owner that ever wanted to claim it. It was likely a product of, I want to get a Belgian Malinois because it's so cool. And then they live with it for like 6 months. And they're
"Holy
like,
shit.
I hate this dog actually. And then just dump it somewhere. But she took it in. She's a retriever person. She has like 2 labs and a golden, never has had interactions. She said that in their family, one of them has a German Shepherd, but that's like the closest she's gotten to anything like this. And instantly, when we started working with this dog, I like refitted her prong collar properly, started doing some food work and stuff. Literally this like beautiful like attention heel.
Yes.
The dog is just like gazing into her eyes and like doing everything beautifully. And she looks at me and she goes, does this always happen? And I said, with these dogs, yes. Because they are just yearning for like somebody to like show them exactly what they're supposed to do.
Yeah.
And they will just like fall at your feet and be like, oh, thank you so much.
They want a job. They want it to be work.
Yes. And Mals are so sensitive. Like they're very sensitive. They want to be like in tune with their person and that whole thing. And it's like they like latch on to training so quickly and so easily because that's literally what they want to do. And I told her, I was like, the thing about Mals and why people find them, why they are so difficult is not because they're hard to train. They're so easy to train. Like as a dog trainer, showing me that your Mal can do all, that's not impressive to me. Like, okay, cool. Like you taught a dog who loves to be trained and you trained it. But living with them is difficult.
Yeah.
That's the difference, is that they can learn everything super quick. They pick up on things very quickly, but actually being able to safely own one and make sure that their behavior, not just their obedience, is on par is very difficult.
Yes.
And having the time and everything capacity for one is a lot more difficult too.
Yeah.
So they're easy to train. They're not easy to live with.
No. They're not.
What other expectations things do you have, Bridget? Is there any conversations that you have with your board and train people specifically, like things way you go about stuff?
Yeah. So we just had a dog graduate, a little beagle, and his biggest issues was he was snapping at their son, and their son's 2 years old. So we had to have the conversation of like, this goes both ways. One, we can't let your son come up to the dog and crawl in the bed. But two, like, your dog can't be on the couch and resource guard the couch from your child. Mm-hmm. So it's just like, you have to look at both sides of things, and it's not just your dog's fault and it's not just your child's fault. You have to look at what are both parties doing here and how can I make it safe. So we said, dog is not allowed on the couch anymore because a kid deserves to be on the couch. And if they lean over suddenly because they get excited, that's a bite in the face. But in the same breath, if Jet was on his bed stay, I say, I don't want your child going up to him and sitting on the bed with him.
Yeah.
And she was like, oh, this is going to take work. And I was like, yeah, I don't have a child, but like, I'm sure toddlers are really difficult and it's hard to keep them away. Mm-hmm. But I told her, if you're having one of those days, like, put Jet in his crate and just like prioritize your son, get the dog out when he's asleep, do what you can. But there's certain expectations. Like, you can't say a dog will never snap at a child.
No. And I think that anytime I have clients that either have children and they're having issues with the dogs and the kids, or they plan on having children, or they tell me they're pregnant or whatever, crate training is like a non-negotiable.
Yes.
Is your dog crate trained? It has to be crate trained.
Yes.
Has to be.
So
and we have to do it
days.
now.
Yeah.
Because you need to be able to put the dog somewhere that there is zero risk to something happening. Because if you're already dealing with issues with the dog, like, you can't be on it 100% of the time.
And you shouldn't have to. Like, you're a mom and you're like, this woman is a lovely owner. She loves her son. She's like, does so much in her life, but she deserves some time to completely mentally relax and be like, I don't have to be on edge thinking, where's my 2-year-old? Mm-hmm. Where's the dog? Because a 2-year-old and a dog, they don't mix.
Yeah.
And they should never, ever be left unmanaged. Like,
even
the friendliest dog should never be alone with a child.
No. And you have to be able to, because here's the thing. So, like, the threshold of each dog is going to be different. So, as in reference to children. So, if you have a child who is learning how to be around dogs, they cannot be with a dog who is learning how to be around kids.
Yes.
It's very difficult. One of them has to be pretty savvy of the other. Mm-hmm. So, like, even with my stepson, he was around the same age when me and my husband started dating. And so I knew my shepherd totally off limits. Mm-hmm. You guys are not going to be around each other in a like free roaming capacity. Like, did we go on walks? Yes, we did. We did activities together, but we were not just relaxing together. The crate was a big safety component in that initial thing. Whereas with Cash, my doodle, he's far more tolerant of kids. He was a therapy dog. I did a ton of therapy work with him. And I know that his threshold to bite is so high. Mm-hmm. Like, you would have to do a lot to him.
Physically hurt him.
Yes, to piss him off to where he would bite.
And kids do that.
Yes. And so with him, and my husband knows this, okay? He doesn't care that I say this. His practices of like what he allowed his son to do towards dogs was like off the wall bonkers. Mm-hmm. Okay. And it wasn't that like my stepson was being mean to the dogs, but there were just no boundaries. Yes. There were no boundaries enforced. And thankfully he was very lucky that the 2 dogs he was living with at the time were very good with children, very tolerant, did not care at all. They weren't even stressed by it. Mm-hmm. But obviously with my dogs coming into the picture where their thresholds towards children were a little bit different, I was like, we gotta we got to make some changes here. So as my stepson was learning how to interact with dogs better, Cash was perfect because I knew that like his tolerance was going to be enough to where he could help me kind of teach my stepson and guide him a little bit better. So like a good example was Cash was like laying down on the floor and my stepson went over and was petting him very politely at first. Everything was great. And then he was like, no, let me just like lay on you and use you as a pillow. And like I heard Cash growl a little bit. And I was like, okay, do you hear that? I said, what is he doing? And he was like, well, he's growling. And I said, okay, that means he does not like what you're doing. So you need to stop doing that. And he was like, okay. And so he got up from him and then Cash got up and he walked away, you know, and kind of created space. But that was like a very nice opportunity I had with Cash, RIP. Oh, my heart dog. But he was so good for things like that with teaching kids because he was very clear, but like very like patient in his cues. He was like, excuse me, get off of me. And that is a way, but a lot of times like our clients don't have the luxury of having a dog with a really high threshold like that. So we have to be a little bit more clear with the expectation setting of like, you got to advocate for both parties individually.
And there's a lot of people that come in thinking it's just like the dog has to be good around the child, but you don't realize like how unethical and unfair it is to make a dog do a bed stain saying you cannot leave the spot and then like correct them if they do while your child is going pulling their fur. Like that's completely unethical.
Yeah.
Like you cannot convince me that a dog should ever be able to tolerate that. And that's sad.
And I also talk to my clients a lot about like intelligent disobedience in moments like that.
Yes. Like
where
fleeing the bed.
Yes.
Like,
yes.
We'll let that one go.
Exactly. Like to me, a dog making a choice that prioritizes safety and them being able to choose how to avoid putting themselves in a setting where they're going to make a poor choice trumps any obedience in my mind. Yeah. So like that scenario, my shepherd, he learned that where he was like, if I am in command, but a child starts wandering towards me or like, someone's invading my space, he's like, I gotta go because I know I'm going to do something real stupid if I stay here. Right. So I'm totally fine with a dog choosing like intelligent disobedience and being like, my options are stay on this bed stay and bite somebody or leave the bed stay, break the command and go somewhere else. And then we want them to know that like we back them up on that.
Yeah.
Like, yes, that was fine. And so obviously there's some nuance to that, but that is a big piece of it too.
Like put your kids in timeout if they're doing something like outrageous.
Just please
with
discipline
the
your children.
Yeah.
Like it is completely reasonable for toddlers to understand hard boundaries with dogs.
You have to set them though.
You have to be consistent and stop allowing your dog to do it because that's what sends your kids to the hospital. Like you have to be the one seeing the behaviors. Like for instance, with my stepson and Cash, that is a scenario that I'm sure happens every single day in people's houses, but they don't handle it the way that I did, right? They either yell at the dog and the dog's the problem, or they say, wow, look at that good communication, but the dog is just staying there. He's not doing anything more about it. And my kid should be able to hug the dog. So like, I'm not going to tell him to stop. And they justify all these things. And then you're taking advantage of a dog with a beautiful temperament towards children, and you're going to make them hate kids because no one ever respects their boundaries. Yeah. Because you just let it go and you don't advocate for them and you don't teach children how to read cues in dogs and behavior in dogs. Like there was even, and so this was probably a couple years ago, but like even when my stepson has friends over now, obviously he's much older. It's been like 10 years, right? And he'll even tell his friends because they'll ask like, oh, can I like pet one of your dogs or whatever? And he'll be like, yeah, I mean, if they want to get pet, they'll come over to you. But like otherwise just leave them alone. And like he's very dog savvy now when it comes to like their behavior and stuff like that. And that should just be like a normal thing. Yeah. Humans should be raised knowing to not be stupid around dogs.
And like control your children. Like,
Yes.
do you know who Colleen Ballinger is?
Yes.
Did you hear the story that she told and admitted, like, she thought it was a funny haha story?
Oh no.
That she used to pinch her dog because she hated it when she was a little girl, and she would pinch it because, like, she was like, I fucking hate that dog, and the dog turned around and bit her, and she was like, I got my dog euthanized because of that, and she's like telling it still exists on the internet, and people, like, she was like, haha, this is so funny, like, I'm so quirky, and people are like, wait a minute. So you purposely pinched your dog until it bit you. And then when it bit you in the face, you had to go to the hospital. Your parents euthanized it. And she was like, I won. Like,
That's insane. Why would you ever admit to that?
no, I don't know.
That's wild. To do that in the first place is psychopathic. But then to like
is.
admit that you did it and talk about it on the internet is crazy.
Yeah. And like to make it a funny story, not like, you know, guys, it was a big learning lesson for me. Like, it was so ignorant and like tone deaf of her.
Yeah, that's terrible.
And she's ignorant and tone deaf all the time.
I mean, that's her in a nutshell. That's wild. But yeah, that's stuff that happens all the time is kids are little brats to dogs because their parents don't get them to understand that like your dog is a animal. It's not a toy. It's not a source of entertainment. I had a couple of clients over the years. Most of the time, thankfully, our clients are not stupid people. They're mostly great. A couple of times, and this is many, many years ago for me, dog training, like probably 9 years ago, I had a client where she basically was just like completely helpless and at the mercy of her children and just like would not do anything, right? To like discipline these kids around the dog. And at one point I looked at her and I said, I don't know what you want me or this dog to do because you will not get your kids under control.
Yeah.
Like this is a waste of everybody's time because the dog is doing its best. I'm doing my best and you are just not doing anything.
Like being a doormat for your children.
Yeah. And it was like, oh, but my kids want the dog to sleep with them. Have you heard of the word no? Like, I don't know what to tell you. Tell them no. Oh, well, I can't, they just won't stop going up onto the bed with the dog. Make them stop.
Yeah.
This is so simple. This is elementary level things as an adult. Like, make them. You are the parent here. You don't have to just be at the mercy of your children.
Yes.
Oh, well, I can't. You can. You just don't want to.
Yeah.
And
like,
that's a you problem.
The funniest situation I was in, which is funny now, but do you remember that email I got after a dog graduated the board and train?
Yes.
And the email was like furious, all caps. And he was like, I just brought my dog home and I wanted to let you know my kids were giving the dog a hug goodnight. And he growled at them. And this must be fixed immediately. The e-collar caused my dog to be aggressive. And really the dog had gone from a puppy that tolerated things to being an adolescent that had its boundaries respected in training. And then when it went home, it was like, fuck no.
I'm not standing for this anymore.
And then David calls them and he's like, we're not doing this.
Yeah.
And he goes over for an in-home and the kids are wild. The kids are like getting in the crate with the dog, like pulling the dog's hair. And they're like, you need to fix this. And you're like, no, you need to fix this.
Yeah.
Get your fucking kids.
Yeah. It is insane. Like if you decide that you want to get a dog while you have children, you are then deciding that you're going to teach your children how to respect the animal in your house. Like insane behavior. We're not standing for it anymore, guys.
No. And like this guy really thought I'd be like, oh, I'm sorry. Like,
That's the thing about dog training. Yes, there is a certain level of customer service to our job. And, you know, we strive to give the best customer service possible. We're not just like a waitress that needs to like do everything in our power to give you a good experience. Like you hired us because you don't know what the fuck you're doing.
yes.
So you need to be a little bit more respectful with how you interact with us.
And luckily, like our boss won't tolerate that for any of us.
Yeah.
And it's really nice to work for somebody that's not like, customers always right. When the customers are wrong, he's like, you're wrong. And you're not going to talk to my employees like that.
I mean, if you hire us to train your dog because obviously you couldn't do it yourself, you're already wrong.
Yeah.
What you've been doing is wrong already. So the customer is not always right.
No, the customer's
Respectfully,
almost always wrong.
most of you are typically wrong.
This isn't the McDonald's, okay?
You can't. This isn't Burger King. You can't have it your way. Okay. Yeah. So expectations. I think that is such an important topic overall that people need to make sure that they are on the same page with their clients.
Yes.
When you start training.
Yeah. You got to be like, you got to see the future coming and every wrong thing that could happen. And you need to tell your client, this is everything wrong that could happen. I'm not trying to make you nervous. But when you go home from your board and train, your dog is going to test all of the boundaries.
Yeah.
So when the dog goes home and tests all the boundaries, they're not like, the training didn't work. Like,
Exactly.
this is terrible. You already have them expecting that they're going to have a lot of work to do when they get home.
And they trust you more. It builds rapport. Like when you are able to communicate to them the future, because we know what's going to happen.
And I know your dog and what your dog's going to do when they see you.
Exactly. Then they are typically like, oh, so this person does know what they're talking about. They told me this was going to happen. And instead of them being disappointed in that situation because it didn't go the way they wanted, they're actually going to trust you more because dog trainer hack. They're going to trust you more because they're like, oh, she told me my dog was going to fuck up and that this was going to go south. So she knows what she's talking about. And she also told me exactly what to do and how to fix it and how to move forward. So you just got to listen, if you think you have communicated clearly and you have like been as thorough as possible, be more thorough.
Yep.
Just really try to be as open and communicative with people as possible. And it's never bad to be more thorough with people.
Yeah. I'd rather do it up front than have to like be like, we have to PR the situation because like, I guaranteed, or I made it seem like these results are guaranteed. And just like, we don't guarantee our work because it's so like, there's so many variables.
So many variables. We guarantee that you have like lifetime support.
Yeah.
So that like, no matter how long it takes to get to a good place with you and your dog, whatever that looks like for you or for me. Sometimes I have higher standards than even my clients do. And I'm like, no, we're doing another lesson. And they're like, but everything's great. And I'm like, no, it's not. He just reacted to a dog 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
But that's so much better than it was. And I'm like, I agree with you, but I want zero reactions. And I know your dog can get there and I know you can get there. So we're doing another lesson. So like we stand on like our follow through and our lifetime support and everything. But I can't guarantee you like what the time frame is going to be, like all of those different variables. It's very much like, we'll know when we start working with them.
And like bottom line is if your dog can do it with us, your dog is capable of doing it in general.
Yeah.
And your dog can do it with you. Sometimes you're the problem. And you have to like, we'll coach you through it. You know, there's no shame. We're not going to make fun of you, but we're going to tell you that you're the problem.
Yeah. And I've had a lot of people start like first lessons recently. And like everyone's always seems so nervous at their first lessons. And I'm always like, everyone just take a deep breath.
Yeah.
Everyone's learning together. I'm not judging you. I'm not going to nitpick you. Like, this is a safe space.
Yes. And like sometimes you have to get in on couples too, because like they'll be bickering with each other and they're like, you didn't say okay before you release. And you're like, Jennifer, he's fine.
Yes,
like,
he's fine.
I always,
if that starts happening, I usually will tell people, I'll be like, listen, if anyone needs to be told they're doing something wrong, I'll do it.
Yeah.
And that's usually a subtle way to be like, stop.
Yeah.
Everyone stop. You're making the vibes weird. This is argumentative. I will be the one that critiques people. And usually that works.
Yes.
What else? Can you think of any other expectation?
I don't think so. I think like the biggest ones are like understanding what your dog is not safely capable of and what your dog is safely capable of, and categorizing both of those, whether it's like a child being running up to your dog, strangers coming up to your dog, like don't do that shit. Like no dog should have to tolerate that unless they're like a therapy dog.
Exactly. Yeah.
And it's like a temperament.
It's temperament.
Not
Those
everybody
things
has
you
it.
can't really change or manipulate. Can you increase self-control? Yes. can you increase a buffer of time from like when a stimulus or a trigger happens to when a dog is going to do something silly? Yes, but you can't change the feeling of it, right? So like Lumos is never going to love children that he doesn't know, right? But can I increase, and have I increased his tolerance of children to the fact that like he's not just going to like outright bite a child if they touch him? Is he going to look at me and be like,
Yeah.
Excuse me, can you handle this? Absolutely. And so his inner emotion towards it has not changed. He just knows that like you are not allowed to make that choice.
Yeah.
And the reason why he has grown in that area is because I have always advocated for him. And that is the biggest piece, is that he knows and he trusts that even if I am put in a situation where I want to take control and be like, absolutely don't do that, don't touch me, he knows that like my mom is going to do it. I just got to wait a couple more seconds and
You're
she's going to do
Let's
it.
see what happens. Like,
Exactly. I'm not going to look and this is a really good point I'll bring up and then we can close this out. Is that a common trap people fall into is that, so like with Lumos, we'll use him as a continued example. I could fall into a trap where I'm like, he's so good with kids now. All of a sudden, he's fine with kids.
you
So
can allow more to go.
exactly. Like, okay, you're being petted by a kid and you're not absolutely losing your shit. Like, this is great. And then I start taking away all of the measures that turned him into a dog who was more tolerant of children. And he's like, okay, well then I guess now I'm going to have to revert and regress back to doing the things to create space and keep myself comfortable that I thought you were going to do. And in turn, that damages our relationship, me and his. It obviously is a dangerous setting and stuff like that. So don't fool yourself that if suddenly your dog who had really strong temperament issues is getting more tolerant and more stable, that it's necessarily like maybe their emotion hasn't changed. They're just controlling it a little bit better. And you still need to respect that.
Yes. Weekly goal for people with children and dogs is create a timeout corner for your child.
Yeah.
And put them in the corner when they do something dumb with the dog.
Yeah.
And don't be afraid, because teaching more people in the world to respect dogs is only going to lead to a more beautiful future.
Yes.
So.
And it'll keep your child safe. Like them being safe around other dogs starts in your house and them being safe with your dogs.
Yes. And they're like, this is a discussion for a different day, but there's definitely dogs that are not safe around children ever.
No, ever. Yeah. That's the thing that can be a hard line of maybe expectation wise. There are some dogs I've encountered that I'm like, you have children, and this dog I would never ever trust around a child.
I wouldn't even want to do this, and I'm a very practiced dog trainer.
Yeah.
I don't want you
just
to have to do
because
that.
like the risk is so great that you don't ever want to risk the safety of a child. But yeah, that's another conversation for another time. I don't think I have anything else to add. Do you?
I don't either.
Well, think about your expectations this week, guys. Ponder it a little bit.
Yeah.
Think, maybe am I underestimating my dog? Could my expectations be higher? Maybe I'm overestimating them. Maybe I need to drop down some expectations in certain areas.
What's fair, you know?
Yeah. But thanks for joining with us.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.